that followed him placed a demand. That's exactly what the Russian Bible says. And some of them demanded the healing virtue of God. And as many as demanded his power, they got healed. All of them. And we've learned this morning that all means all. And that's all means. So all of them, I love it, all of them got healed. As many as placed the demand on the healing virtue of Jesus got healed. Listen to me very carefully. I assume not that many things changed ever since. Because to this very day, multitudes followed him. For almost 2,000 years, the kingdom of the gospel of the kingdom is being preached. Unfortunately, some, just some, willing to take a risk and place a demand. So as we conclude this series, I came this morning with two questions. Are we going to be that remnant, if you will? Are we going to be that group from the multitude that will place a demand on the healing virtue of Jesus Christ? And if so, how do we go about it? I mean, I can go all day long screaming from the top of my lungs, right to demand. I have a right to demand. The practical question would be, how do I go about it? How do I place a demand on the power of God individually or corporately? How do we go about it? Number one, we place a demand on the power of God by faith that works itself through purity and holiness. If you are hearing this for the first time, please take a note. Please write it down. If you remember one thing from this series, remember the following. We place a demand on the healing power of God, on a saving power of God, on a delivering power of God by faith that works itself through holiness and purity. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no healing virtue of Jesus. There is no miracle working power of God apart of holiness and purity. I'll repeat myself. There is no healing virtue of Jesus. There is no miracle working power of God apart from holiness and purity. Can I get an amen? I love this scripture. I want you to go with me to Philippians chapter 2. Am I doing all right? Philippians chapter 2. Just consider how highly Scripture speaks of you. Philippians chapter 2. Just consider how highly Scripture speaks of you. Look no further than Philippians chapter 2. I just wrote it. One more time. Look how highly Scripture speaks of you. Look no further than Philippians chapter 2. Man, I need to change profession and begin to write some poetry. That's all it means. Philippians chapter 2. Are you there? Yes. Look at this. Verse number 14. Do all things. Man, it's going to be a theme of the day. Do you know what all means? Do you know what all means? All means all. That's all means. So it says, do all things without complaining and disputing. Verse number 15. That you may become blameless and harmless, children of God without fault in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation. Do you need any proof, ladies and gentlemen, that we are living in a crooked and perverse generation? Do you? I don't think so. It is wicked. It is crooked generation that we are part of. And he says that you may become blameless, harmless, children of God without fault in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation. Listen to this. Among whom? Among whom you shine. Unfortunately, we have so much darkness cursing nowadays and very little light shining. I hear preachers all the time, especially on Twitter, cursing the darkness. This is bad, that is bad, that is negative, that is negative. Stop it! Why are you surprised? This generation is crooked. This generation is perverse. But you are charged to shine.
All right.
That's your assignment. That's what we are here for. Not to become as dark as darkness, but to shine as stars on a sky. So this generation is crooked, this generation is perverse, but you are here not to curse the darkness, you are here to shine the light.
Amen.
Question.
Amen.
Can we do it without holiness? Can we do it without purity? If we are to stand out, if we are to be different, that's exactly what will make us different. Walking in purity and holiness. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I understand there is a lot of legalism when it comes to the holiness and purity. But purity and holiness comes directly from the book. What people have done to it, that's none of our business. We are in kingdom business. And he said, be you holy just as I am holy. Last time I checked, that's not an option even.
That's right.
That's not even a suggestion. That's a command. Because apart from holiness, apart from purity, there is no miracle working power of God.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, we place a demand on His power when we walk in holiness. We place a demand on His power when we walk in purity. And that's what Bible calls us to, right? Once again, that you may become blameless, same blameless. Harmless, same harmless. Children of God without fault in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom you shine as light in the world. That's what Jesus said. You are the light. You are the salt. You have to be different, not to become one with darkness, but despite the darkness, shine the light of the gospel. How do we do it? By walking in purity, by living in holiness. And along the way, the demand is placed on a healing virtue of Jesus, on a miracle working power of God. Can I get a witness in this house? Number two, it's just a matter of revisiting a few things. Number two, we place a demand on a healing power of God, on a saving power of God, on a delivering power of God, by faith, working through unity. Number three, we place a demand on a miracle working power of God by faith that expresses itself through worship. Number four, and we've spent a great deal last week, we place a demand on a miracle working power of God by faith working through perseverance. Let me ask you, how bad do you want it? Let me ask you, how determined are you to push back against every hindrance and difficulty? Are you willing to pursue to the end? And finally, we place a demand on the power of God, saving power of God, miracle power of God, healing power of God, delivering power of God, by faith that expresses itself through sacrificial giving. I'll repeat myself. We place a demand on the miracle working power of God by faith that works itself out through sacrificial giving. You need a scriptural proof? Galatians 5:6. Faith that works through love. Faith that works through love. Please write this down, and I'm going to spend some time on it. What we have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, is that the devil does not understand sacrifice. Years ago, when I was much young, I'm not that old, but when I was younger, that seed was placed deep in my spirit years ago. Devil does not understand sacrifice, nor he understand anything that is built on sacrifice. If he did, he would not allow to crucify Jesus. But Jesus' death on the cross, his sacrificial giving of his life, changed the course of history. And we place a demand on the miracle working power of God. We place a demand on the healing virtue of Jesus by faith that works itself out through sacrificial giving. Short time ago, I had a lunch with one pastor. So I told him, I asked him, tell me about yourself. I know so little. Just what is your story? So told me his story, how he was raised and called into ministry and got married and on and on and on and on. So we were talking and talking and talking and talking. And he gets to the point in his story that they are within striking distance. I mean, I'm using this phrase. They are within striking distance that the church facility is just being given to them for free. I started laughing. I said, man, I rejoice with you. Even though it's still in the making, but I rejoice with you. But when it comes to this, to this human being, I don't know why, but nothing came easy. I'm not offended with God. As a matter of fact, I don't know his lifestyle when it comes to sowing. Maybe getting a church facility for free is a harvest that he is gathering, or churches. I don't know. But I told him, I said, I rejoice with you. God is my witness. I rejoice with you. But when it comes to this human being, nothing came easy. But I learned something. Everything that is built on a sacrifice, everything that is built on a sacrificial giving, no gates of hell can prevail against it. And we place a demand on a miracle working power of God when it comes to provision. When we do it by faith that works itself through a sacrificial giving. We are not a mega church. I like to say about myself, and this is not in a condescending way, I am not dumb. I don't think I am dumb, but I am not the sharpest tool in the shed. In all humility. But to God be the glory. We didn't show up overnight. Come next week, we're going to be celebrating this church 27th birthday.
Yeah.
And look what he has done. Exceedingly abundantly. exceedingly abundantly. And let me tell you, every single time you go an extra, you remember what happened with the South location? I mean, some of you who joined this congregation later on, I have to even remind myself and remind you, it was nothing short of a miracle, because we've got a prophetic word, and in the 7th year into paying our mortgage, God came through, paid it in full to the last penny, because He is a miracle working God. How did we get to that point? By placing a demand on the power of His provision. Through sacrificial giving. I remember, you remember when you gave, I remember when church gave, when our family gave, believing God that He will exceed our expectations, and sure He did, because He is that kind of God who does exceedingly abundantly more we ask or think. Somebody give Him a shout of praise. And then we've taken that step, purchasing a City Life Center. It was outside the, speaking of outside the box thinking, it was completely outside of 2 boxes thinking. It was so crazy that even people in the church were wondering, is that a right move? And my head was spinning, but my spirit was leaping. That's a good statement. Head is spinning, spirit is leaping. And I knew it's not just on behalf of myself. It was a corporate approach and a bunch of sacrificial giving. And He exceeded our expectation. The City Life Center was paid in full in a very short period of time. And then we came here. By the way, we have no intentions of going anywhere. What not to like about this place? Huh? Look at that. Look, every time you come here, you just talk to yourself and say, look what the Lord has done. He is good, and He is good all the time. But the power of His provision, ladies and gentlemen, was released when we place a demand by faith that works itself through sacrificial giving. Let me finish with this. I do understand when it comes to holiness, there is a lot of human aspect. There is a lot of humanistic interpretation. There is a lot of perversion when it comes to the message of holiness in the body of Christ, unfortunately. And there is a lot of perversion when it comes to the message of divine enablement to walk in a financial freedom. There is a lot of perversion, but there are some Bible-given boundaries. And if you stay within your line, you will be blessed and exalted by God, because He is the one who said, the sowing and reaping will never cease. How do you place a demand on the power of God? By walking in purity and holiness. How do you place a demand on the power of God? By faith that works itself through unity. By faith that works through worship. By faith that is manifesting itself through perseverance and persistence. And we place a demand on the miracle working power of God by faith that works itself through sacrificial giving. It is so painful sometimes that you bring that seed and it causes you to weep. Your head is spinning. Your spirit is leaping. And he said, those who sow with tears will come back rejoicing about what the Lord has done. Oh, somebody give him a shout of praise. You know, I want to charge myself, I want to charge you, I want to charge those who are joining us this morning. Multitudes to this day follow him. Many church houses in this nation and abroad are filled to capacity on Sunday morning. Around Christmas time, gazillions of people. But some will stand out and place a demand. As noble as it is to follow him, there is more into that journey. And I want you to be in that remnant, if you will. I'm coming back to that statement. I want to be in that group of people. I care the less how many, how numerous that group of people will be, but I want to be in that group of people that places a demand on him. And this is my right, this is your right, this is our right to exercise. By faith, holiness, unity, worship, perseverance, sacrificial giving. And he will do exceedingly abundantly all we may ask or think, because we serve, last time I checked, he is a limitless God.
Yes. Hallelujah.
Unless you place a limit. Otherwise, he is a limitless God. Limitless God. Stand to your feet.